in general, wrestling isn't random. People are doing certain things. You watch Sidikov, he kind of does the same thing almost every match, pretty much. Everybody who I wrestled, I'm wrestling the Russian. It got me fired up because the Russians were the best. I've got to be on. I've got to be sharp. I have to be tough. I knew I had to be at my best. I knew if I didn't wrestle tough, I wasn't going to win. But in general, I wanted to win. I stepped on the mat. I didn't fear losing, and especially because of my faith. But God gave me a passion for the sport, and God's been able to use it. As a coach, I've had the opportunity to share with thousands of kids, coach kids, have camps. I share my testimony when I have camps and stuff like that. So it's
Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Mindset. Today we're here with legendary Coach John Azevado. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's good to be here. So
Absolutely. So you said you just moved. Tell us about that.
yeah, I just I've been living up in the San Luis Obispo area, Paso Robles, for the last 7 years or so. I've been kind of working. I've been working for Titan Mercury at the last 5 years, kind of going to Cal Poly because Evan Wick. I coach Evan Wick, and that's a story. Evan was the first group I took him and Xander and a few other kids to Ukraine with Valentine. That was my first trip to with Valentine. We went to Ukraine and trained in like 2013. So we took a group of kids. That was Valentine's camp. And so I went over with them and took Evan Wick, his brother Xander, Julian Flores, some kids that I was coaching at San Marino High School. And yeah, it was a great trip to Ukraine. We got to wrestle with the cadet. It was the cadet, I believe, national team in Ukraine. And Evan and those guys, they got worked by those Ukrainian freestylers. They weren't used to that, but it was a great trip. But yeah, the move. So I was up there coaching at Cal Poly, helping out with the RTC, coaching Evan mostly, but working with some of the kids, some of the other Cal Poly, and then I would go over to Bakersfield couple times a week, and I'd work with them. Andy Barth was kind of having me. We called it the SoCal RTC. So Andy Barth was paying me to, help out at Cal Poly, help out at Bakersfield. I wrestled at Bakersfield. So that was fun to go over there and help those guys out. And then I'd come down to Southern California once or twice a month and help out here with Sammy Sanchez and some of these high school kids at Esperanza, which I know, the Holidays, Josh Holiday, Christian Holiday, Daryl Holiday. I coached those guys when they were in high school. And so I'd come down here and work with the kids. But Evan left. I don't know if you know, Evan moved.
Okay.
Just recently he left. He was coaching at Cal Poly.
Right.
I think the last 4 years or so, he was like an assistant coach and then a volunteer coach. But he moved back to Wisconsin to be with his fiance and to work with the Askren Academy. So when that happened, I'm just like, well, Evan was my main focus. And then so I moved down here and I'm working with I'm still with Titan Mercury. I'm gonna go, Titan Mercury, it's kind of based out of San Marino. Andy Barth lives in San Marino. That's right by Pasadena.
Yeah.
And so that's his community. And so I'm going up there. I'm going to be going up there and helping out with the Titan Mercury Wrestling Youth Club, and then helping out with Esperanza High School. And So yeah, just made that move and kind of some new things I'm doing, but I'm excited to be down here around Josh Holiday. I don't know if you know that name. Do you know the name Josh?
It sounds familiar.
Josh, yeah, he was a couple times state champ at Calvary Chapel High School when I coached there. Went to Minnesota. He wrestled for Jay Robinson and at Minnesota, and now he's the pastor at Calvary Chapel Yorba Linda. So they have an academy there. They have a Rough House Wrestling Club. That's where Sammy has wrestled too there with those guys, and so he's got a church. So I'm kind of involved with that, with the church and all that. So it's a great situation, really. I know a lot of people down here, and make connections again with a lot of people. It should be, spiritually and just overall be a great situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Valentine said from being with you, he said he almost became a Christian. So I said, you got to do it. So I'm pushing him along too. So if it's the whole,
Did he say that? Did he really?
oh yeah, I say, well, because he's obviously speaks the world of you, and a guy who has so much knowledge as he does, and his background being Soviet trained, he was more Greco, and he said he learned freestyle from you.
Right, right,
So that's a high compliment.
right. Yeah. He yeah, like you said, he's been mostly a Greco guy, but he's been studying it for quite a while. He was when he started taking Pico and Helen overseas. He was working with Tadeev, and he was around
Yeah.
Romanov, all these guys that were. He
Hmm.
was learning the freestyle kind of ropes too. So he's had
Yeah.
a lot of great people he has connections with.
Oh yeah. And I mean, he's because obviously he's coming at it from a very particular vantage point, and he loves America, but of course he could different. He looks at different coaches. Well, he likes this or he doesn't like that, or sometimes looking at. But for you, he's always said, man, he said John's a great coach. So that's like I said, it's a big deal. And of course, he speaks even higher of you as a person, as great as he speaks of you as a coach. So
Right.
that's
That's
awesome.
good. That's good to hear. Yeah. Obviously Calvary Chapel is a Christian school, and Yuri went there, and then I coached Yuri at Cal Poly too.
Yep.
So I left before Yuri's senior year. So I went to Cal Poly, and then when he graduated in 2000, and I went to 2001 to Cal Poly, then he came up in 2002, but so he
Yeah.
appreciates, the care I've taken for his son, and through the years, I share with Valentine and stuff. He's got his Jewish heritage too,
Yep.
so
Well,
he just
well,
he has to, come to Jesus,
right. Right. Well,
figure that out. Jesus is the Messiah.
That's that's it. That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So little by little, the Holy Spirit's working on him. So now we're excited about his book coming out. What has he told you about his book? Because that's awesome. I mean, when we were speaking one time and he was saying about, oh, we'd love to write a book. I said we should do it together. And we're basically just putting the finishing touches on it. What has he told you?
Yeah, he sent me some excerpts from some of the chapters. He
Yeah.
he sent me the some of the chapter names, and no, it sounds great. It's good stuff. Just great philosophy. Um, just it sounds. I'd love to read it.
Yeah.
I've read some different. When I was with Dave Schultz and I were friends. We coached together at Wisconsin for 3 years, 86 to 89. We grew up together in California. I was two grades ahead of Dave, so I was kind of like his idol, and then he became my idol.
Right.
But Dave had some different books of the whole Soviet system that I've read over and over, just about their whole system, of taking kids from, youth to senior level, how many practices at this age, how many practices, the different micro cycles and
Right.
macro and, the whole system of training, peaking, and philosophy and stuff like that. So it's good stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people are just not aware of that. Just these, having that, understanding that perspective too. We kind of a lot of times do what we've learned from other people, but it's good to
Right.
see it's great to see. I mean, obviously the Soviets with their success, what were they doing? How are they thinking about it? I mean,
Yeah,
that could only help having that added to a coach's arsenal.
for sure. It's, yeah, there's some, like Valentine will tell you. I mean, it's crazy how we've got dads coaching youth that do not know what the heck they're doing. And
Mhm.
a lot of them, their heart's in the right place,
Sure.
but they don't know what they're doing. That's the bottom line. They have no idea what they're
Right.
doing.
Right.
And it's kind of sad in some ways, scary in some ways. I've dealt with some crazy dads that just doing crazy things. But yeah, it's just you have to have some kind of system and knowledge of, you know, and a lot of coaches, they take the time to research and learn and become pretty good coaches. But in general, yeah, our system is, it's all over the place.
Right. And I mean it's one of those that because there's not as much standardization, right,
Yes,
as they had
exactly.
over there. But I even go
Exactly.
but I even go back to Hosea, my people perish because of the lack of knowledge. Right. And I mean and obviously scriptures are
Yeah,
polyvalent. There's multiple meanings there, of course. So
yes.
maybe that's not the primary part of the text, but in there, but embedded in that
In that wisdom, it's so, yeah,
is that people get hurt when a coach does, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, when there's a coach who's not knowledgeable. So we have to
yeah,
look at that as a deeper calling. It's not just coach, it's
yeah.
vocation, right?
Yes, exactly. For sure. And that's,
The time is now to take your mindset to the next level with Wrestling Mindset. Make sure you go to our website, wrestlingmindset.com, and sign up for your free trial session today. Don't wait any longer. You want the mental edge right now. When you sign up for the free trial session, you're also going to get a copy of our free ebook, Building the Predator Mindset. This book has helped thousands of people build confidence, relax under pressure, get motivated, and build mental toughness in wrestling, school, and life. Make sure you sign up for your free trial session.
having that passion and that's for me, I've had the passion. I was around Dave Schultz, like I said, around a lot of good people. Joe C was my coach. Went to the world training camps with Dan Gable, Stan Desick,
Mhm.
um, Bobby Douglas. I coached with Bobby Douglas, so I've been around a lot of great people, and read a lot of good books about coaching, wrestling. The whole training, everything. So um, yeah, I mean it takes some
Right.
yes. So
And then the people that you've impacted who are now going on to coach, not going on to coach, people who have been coaching. I think of Matt, who's doing a great job over at
yeah,
Drexel. I run into him, from time to time, being at the National Coaching
awesome.
Convention and over at Penn in Philadelphia and everything. And he's doing a great job. How frequently does he make it back? Is he able to ever get back to help out or?
Yeah, yeah, he does. I talked to Matt. I just talked to him a couple of days ago. Um, but he coached with me for like 6 or 7 years
Yeah.
at Cal Poly. He was my assistant. Him and Joe Heskett. Uh, so I coached Matt in high school. Well, when he was youth, but he moved into Calvary Chapel as a senior in high school from Nevada. My brother lives in Vegas, so Matt grew up there, but he moved over to Calvary Chapel to wrestle for me his senior year in high school. So I coached him there, and then he went to Arizona State. He went and wrestled with Kale, Iowa State with Kale there and all that. So, and then he was my assistant for 6 years. But yeah, we talk all the time, and I go back there sometimes. He comes to California. We've done some stuff together. So
That's great. And does he, I guess him then coming over to the East Coast, does he notice a big difference? Does it seem the culture of wrestling being different on the West versus East Coast?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I remember he first went to Drexel. He's like, these kids, and he wasn't getting the best kids. I mean, the best kids
Right.
in general, they know how to shoot. The kids he was getting, they were the tough, funky kids, more defensive and funky.
Mhm.
So, I taught Matt to shoot,
Right. Right.
being a shooter.
Right.
I had good shots, attacking people with shots. And, that was the thing. Like, God, these kids won't shoot. I tried to get them to shoot and they won't shoot.
Yeah.
But so it's hard to change a kid. He's never been a shooter. All of a sudden in college, it's hard to change him. But he's getting some different kids now that are more aggressive with their shooting and stuff like that. But yeah, the culture, like you said, for the kids he was getting a lot of like tough, funky kids, which at the highest level, even in college, if you're defensive, you're only going to go so far by being defensive and funky.
Yeah.
But
He
he
was,
enjoys it. He's
yeah.
when he took over Drexel, it was pretty bottom of the barrel. So
Yeah.
he's done a lot there to raise that level of wrestling and respect for that program. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we were talking before you hit on one of the things you said, your philosophy is pressure, right? That was a big thing.
yeah,
And you said that was something that you and Valentine like really like clicked on because he
yeah,
always, I mean, we literally have an entire chapter in his book dedicated to pressure. So
right,
talk about that a little bit.
yeah,
I know I'm jumping around with you a little bit.
yeah. That's fine. Yeah, yeah. Um, I've always been one to, position and move forward, head position, put pressure on people, go get your ties, your fakes, but pressure in general, pressure with your positioning, pressure with your ties, getting the guy to react. So, that sets up your shots. It's very difficult to get to a wrestler's legs when they have great, positioning, head, hands. It's hard unless you put pressure on them and you make them react. You make them overreact. You put pressure on them and you have to, fake them out. And if you want to beat a good wrestler, it takes pressure regardless.
Right. And the best wrestlers, they understand how to make that work for them. Pressure, in other words,
Yeah.
pressure is not when I just hear pressure, a lot of people think just push in. Just push in.
Yes.
That's
Right.
that's not what you're speaking about though when you're saying pressure. It's using and having that feel, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's your ties, going to your ties, and, push, pull, snap. I know Valentine, he's pretty adamant. Don't step back, which I get, but I'll push and release. I go pressure release, pressure release, pressure release, and then I'll move my feet, try to, get angles, hit a fake, uh, not back up, not pressure, back up, but pressure release,
Yeah.
and move your feet. You hear a lot, you see it, hear coaches about moving your feet. Footwork is very important. It's huge. Footwork is a huge, and using your hands obviously for controls and stuff like that. But pressure, yeah, if you don't put pressure, I don't think you can become one of the best, a great wrestler. You're just kind of hanging out,
Yeah, right.
you know.
And then even the guys who are more like from the outside, they're creating like a visual pressure, right? It might not be they might not be pushing pressure like
Yes.
forward, but they're moving forward, but there's
Yeah.
visual pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Jordan. I mean, Jordan, but you watch Jordan, he had a lot of heavy hands too.
Yeah,
on
right,
your on your head, angles, and moving at the same time.
right,
He put pressure on people, and then, like you said, with his fakes,
right, right.
and deep fakes, like, oh, here he comes,
Right. Right.
So I mean, there's different, fakes. I think a deep fake. I did a lot of like fakes with my hand, like I'm coming, like people will here it comes. So fakes and deep fakes, pressure with the, and grabbing ties, obviously. If you control somebody, they're going to react in general. If you would,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So, yeah, pressure. And it's interpreted different for different people in some ways, different, Valentine has his, and it works, really.
Mindset Monday is brought to you by our official sponsors, Eat Clean, bro. Make sure you order today, get them delivered right to your house, check them out, and make sure you put in your discount code MINDSET. Yeah.
But pressure, regardless, pressure is so important. I watch wrestling. I watch a lot of wrestling.
Yep.
I was Sativ. I watched hours. Back in the day, Dave Schultz had a VHS tape of like 30 matches of Arsen Fadzayev, just match after match. I watched that over and over and over and over and over, Fadzayev. And then I had one of Beloglazov, Sergey.
Yep.
So I got those from Dave and just watched them a lot, and you start seeing patterns and stuff like that. You say, oh, combinations and patterns.
Yep.
Wrestling in general, wrestling isn't random. People are doing certain things. You watch Sidikov, he kind of does the same thing almost every match, pretty much.
Right.
He's got variations and he's got different versatility with what he does, but he does the same thing pretty much, just like Beloglazov that Fedzayev did.
Yeah.
Great wrestler Dave Schultz. He had his patterns and his techniques is what he did. It wasn't random. I mean, sometimes you have to react and just be athletic or be random and somewhat, or Sativ is he's very creative, he's pretty creative and you'd say funky in some ways, but yeah, he's, why he's one of the greatest, obviously, because he's very, very kind of creative and versatile in all situations, but
Like you said about watching those videos and hours of the footage on
yeah,
VHS. I don't
yeah,
think the kid,
VHS.
I don't think the kids realize it though. So I bought a tape that TV that has VHS because so my coach back in high school who'd worked with me personally, Don Ernst, who worked with the world and Olympic team video technician back in the 70s from
No,
75 to 79. So he had VHS when DVDs came out. He was getting
no,
them converted from DVD back to
right.
VHS because
No, I know the name. I know Don Ernst.
yeah,
I talked to him and stuff, and I know he was like
yeah,
the
oh yeah,
guy that had the videos and stuff like that. Yeah, I
and
remember Don Ernst. Yeah,
oh yeah, and the cool thing with the VHS is people you pause it and then you could watch it. You could do slow motion or you could go frame by frame.
right. Yeah,
Because he said like for him it's like he doesn't a lot of people could pick it up just by watching it. He said he wasn't like that. I'm not like that either. I needed that frame by
yeah.
frame, that slow motion, which I don't. I mean, I guess I'm sure there's some way you could do it, but it's not as easy as VHS.
No, yeah, for sure.
So being able to watch those videos, man, that is great. And then also, what does that do to the other guy mentally? Of course, we talk a lot about mindset. Obviously, when a guy's always putting pressure on you, what does that do to the opponent?
I
What do
think
you see?
it wears them down mentally and physically. It not always at first, but I think throughout a match, if you keep that pressure, you're going to wear them down physically and mentally. Where towards the end of the match, you get a guy a little worn down, and now all of a sudden you go to the tie and you boom, you touch and go, you go. Instead of, you grab and pull or something, you touch and go. Or finally you're able to, to get your shot or get your snap because he's worn down a little bit. He's a little tired mentally and physically. Uh,
Right. And I think about it also, if I'm feeling a guy pressuring on me a lot, maybe then I take a desperate shot, and then it's an easy
desperate
and then
shot.
it's an easy takedown.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And you don't, like Valentine said, I didn't wrestle very many guys that were able to beat me in pressure, but Belaglazov was one of them. And I just felt like God, I can't do anything to this guy. He was always beating me. He was always like first, like Valentine says. He was always, trying to do my setup, my technique, and all of a sudden he's grabbing me and controlling me. So I couldn't really get my offense going because of that pressure and the control he had of me. And that's what happens when you're putting a pressure, you're controlling them for the most part too, you know.
Yeah.
So it's hard for them to get into their rhythm.
Yeah, and then the other thing I think about is if you're training a guy to have pressure, what happens if they don't, like, if they're going against someone who is a big name or someone they know, maybe they don't give the same pressure that they normally would against someone if they didn't know who they were. If this was done on a different planet and they never heard of the person's
Yeah.
name, maybe they'd beat them, but they're wrestling them different because they're wrestling the name. Talk about that. You see that with wrestlers, I'm sure, all the time.
Yeah, for sure. It's like they're like, oh, I've got this guy. He's a state, finalist or whatever. And the kids, they change their mentality. Their mentality changes, and they don't go out there and wrestle their match. They wrestle with less confidence. It's almost like, okay, what's he gonna do?
Right.
He's good. He's the state champ or whatever. He's good. Watch out. Be careful. Watch out. Don't, so you don't wrestle with that confidence. You wrestle with a little more fear maybe or hesitation. And yeah, you change your mindset and you don't wrestle well. Not, that's where good wrestlers are beat when other wrestlers don't care. They go
Right.
out there and say, okay, he's good, but I'm gonna wrestle, my best. I'm gonna go after him. I'm gonna try to beat this guy. I'm gonna be my best.
Right.
I'm not gonna wrestle with fear or whatever it is. And that's where
Right.
you see guys get upset, obviously. What was the kid, Ramos, when he pinned
Yeah.
Spencer Lee?
Right. Right.
It was like, I mean, that was insane. The kid just threw it all out there.
Yeah.
And he,
Believed.
yeah, he believed. And that's, Lee's one of the greatest. And the kid was able to pull that off. You know, that would be interesting to know what was going on in his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And then you having a unique vantage point wrestling against Sergey, you knew, like, at that time, it's like you're going up against not only one of the best, not just someone in the best in the state, best in the country, you're thinking all time, like, this is one of
Yeah.
the all time best. How was that mentally preparing for that? Do you feel like that affected you at all?
No, I didn't think of that at the time, thinking, oh, Sergey's like one of the best ever. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew he was good.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this guy's good. But, in general, um, I loved wrestling Russians. That was part of my mindset was no, everybody who I wrestled, I'm wrestling the Russian because
Right.
it got me fired up because the Russians were the best. So it's like I've got to be on. I've got to be, sharp. I have to be tough. I knew I had to be, at my best and
Right.
win. Ultimately, my goal when I stepped out there was I wanted to win. I didn't want to go out there and just wrestle
Right.
tough. I mean, that's
Right.
part of it,
Of
but
course.
I knew if I didn't wrestle tough, I wasn't going to win. But in general, I wanted to win. I stepped on the mat. I didn't, you know, fear losing, and especially because of my faith, you
Yeah.
know. And even before I became a Christian, became a Christian as a freshman in college at Oklahoma State. That's when I became a Christian. And in high school, I was still a good competitor because I had the ability to just shut things out. I didn't think about winning, losing, or anything. I just went out and I competed,
Right.
uh, to be my best. And I competed well. I competed better in competition for the most part than I did in practice. I became a better wrestler because I got more zoned in
Right.
on just being a great technician, a great wrestler, and a tough wrestler to try to win. So
Yeah, and then obviously with the faith, and it really puts and you see more people open and talking about the faith and talking about their relationship with Christ, that it
yeah,
just it puts things in perspective. Obviously, it's not doing it for gain, right? Seek first the kingdom of God, and then all these
right,
things will be given to you. So it's not a matter of doing it for the gain. You do it, and then any temporal, natural success is like a nice byproduct, but that's not. But it does put things in proper perspective, and you
perspective,
and you
exactly.
and, and you have like now an element of you're bulletproof because when you know your identity, it doesn't really matter when you look at the theodrama that we were born into, that we were inserted into, this theodrama, this the all the way back to Genesis, the woman and the serpent, the Garden of Eden, and angels and demons, and you realize this is just for fun.
Yeah, it is. That's kind of a cool way to put it. It is. It's a drama. It's an intense drama. For sure. Uh, and yeah, you learn when you come to Christ that
From now until Fargo, our partners Champion Athlete Wrestler Nutrition, the premier weight management program for wrestlers, will be offering a special Fargo nutrition program for only $350. That's $160 saving. Visit their website, champion-athletes.com, or call 800-324-1447 today.
wrestling on the hierarchy of importance isn't really that important in general. But I knew God gave me a passion and a love for wrestling. When I became a Christian, you start thinking, well, should I wrestle or? But God gave me a passion for the sport, and God's been able to use it.
Of course.
Now as a coach, I mean, I've had the opportunity to share with thousands of kids, coach kids, have camps. I share my testimony when I have camps and stuff like that. So God has used it for his kingdom. So that's what makes it important. The
Right.
the the accolades and all that is like I tell kids, I would give them all up, you know, in a second compared to knowing Christ as my Lord
Of
and
course.
Savior. It's like that's meaningless, but God has, given me an ability and success, so I use it for his glory.
Well, and it's I mean it is the Christian message because it's sanctifying ordinary work. Christ sanctified ordinary work. The first 30 years, he was an ordinary carpenter,
Yeah.
secular in the world, and yet infinite value, still pure self-giving love, because that's who he is, right? So that shows right there. There really is nothing ordinary about ordinary work, or just because you're not doing apostolate specific, it is still apostolate, even done in the secular world,
Yeah.
whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a wrestling coach. That's your gift that God was giving, and we're called to find Christ in all things.
Do all to the glory of God. Do all, whatever it is, no matter who you are. What do you do? Do
Right.
all to his
Right.
glory. Yes. And unto him, not unto man, you know.
Right.
So, I mean,
It's huge. That's the whole ball game right there,
that's
right?
it.
And then, a
Give
lot
your
of times,
best.
and then a lot, we talk, a lot of times we talk mindset, and it's like, well, what's your purpose? What's your meaning? And it's like that's a very like 20th century or even just an American mindset in general, of your meaning, your purpose. Because, okay, having a purpose is better than no purpose, yes. But if your purpose is contrary to the purpose, the theodrama, we have a problem. And it's a slippery slope because
Yeah,
you basically have to be fanatical if you want to be successful in wrestling. And yet, this isn't everything. So
right.
it's that tough balance, that mental the mental battle.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. It's a battle. It's a balance. You got to balance, obviously, but I think if you're, like you said, becoming a great coach, becoming a great wrestler takes a lot of work.
Sure.
But when you're doing it unto the Lord,
Exactly.
that's part of your ministry. So it's not like I'm not worshiping and doing it
Right.
for God. So and then you have to. I found through the years just taking time each day, like a quiet time and spend time with God.
It's huge.
Personal relationship, is huge. So
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, like how Christ transformed suffering on the cross. The secular work becomes transformed because it's a gift. It's a gift for the sake of God. So, no, this is awesome. This is awesome, Coach. I really appreciate this.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
great. Anything else that you wanted to hit on, or anything else to talk about? Really great.
I mean, there's a lot of things I guess we could talk about, but what
What's coming up
anything you
What's coming up the next few months for you, or next
uh
year?
I think I'm going to Cleveland for that
Oh yeah,
Rav.
yeah.
Evan Evan wanted me to come and coach him. Um, Besides that, it's just go working with the Esperanza kid, Sammy Sanchez, and his group of guys, and then going up to Titan Mercury a couple nights a week for the club. That's kind of going to be my schedule for now. Being involved in the church has been fun. Going to the men's Bible study. A kid I coached in high school, he's teaching the Bible class.
Oh wow.
Mauricio Mora. He
Oh wow.
he wrestled at Minnesota also. He was with Josh. They were buddies at Calvary Chapel, but so he's teaching the men's Bible study. Getting involved with the church a little bit. So it's just uh, that's kind of what I'm doing. Just kind of getting my
Yeah.
turns, I guess, my schedule down here and um, see what God has.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Coach. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we get to link up in person sometime soon. I'm sure we got a lot of things coming up, a lot of big wrestling events. I'm sure we'll run into each other
I'm
soon.
yeah, I'm at most event, like I'll be at that RAV, like you said. I go to NCAA's every year. Obviously US Open freestyle stuff. usually there coaching somebody, and then so I'm sure you're at a lot of you go to those too. You go to the US Open and NCAA's and all that.
Either if we're not there, usually some of our people go. We have a
Right.
pretty big team with wrestling mindset, but yeah, we get out for different things. I mean, the NCAA's, we should be over there.
Right. That's in Cleveland, right?
Yeah,
There's a Cleveland, yeah.
yeah. So
So
that'll be good.
definitely
Yeah,
be cool to meet you in person. So, but
absolutely.
yeah, keep
Thank you.
working
Yes.
on Valentine.
Oh yeah.
He's definitely been on my heart and through the years and sharing with him, and that's cool that now he's getting other
Yeah.
witnesses. He loves you.
He's a good man. He's a
He
good man. He
yeah,
really he really cares about people, and he
yeah,
really, like, he loves the sport, but he really cares about forming people. And I
yes,
think
yeah,
and so I think my hope is that this book people could see through that rather than just looking at a
Yeah.
man who's just a great wrestling coach, that the deeper level of his heart and his mind. And we're going back and forth with, the word, even certain words that we're using. Like, he wants
Right.
to sound like this. So
You're right.
it's going to be great. But thank you,
Yeah, I'm
John.
looking forward to it for sure. That's good stuff. So
Absolutely. Thank you for everything, John. I really appreciate it.
you're welcome. God bless.
God bless you.